Hi all, welcome to another video on adaptive cards. So in our previous videos, we did see how we can create a basic adaptive card and submit it to Microsoft Teams. So basically, adaptive cards is a way in which developers can exchange data and content in a common way, and the JSON payload used for creating the card can be used in any device or UI framework. In addition to that, there is no programming requirements for building these cards as the structure is completely defined by JSON, which is the JavaScript object notation. And we can style the card in a standard way so that it appears consistently across different platforms. So the card authors can describe the content as a simple JSON object and use it to display the data or even take input from the end users using the same card. And the content can be rendered natively inside host applications like Microsoft Teams, Outlook, etc. We will see how we can extend the adaptive card implementation by creating a basic card and setting it out from Power Automate to Microsoft Teams, which will pick the daily to-do items from one of the SharePoint list and display them as an adaptive card on a daily basis to the end user so that he can start his day by just looking at the adaptive card to plan his day ahead with the do to items adaptive card. Now, to get started, let's go ahead and create a schedule flow that will run on a daily basis, and we'll just click on create. And while it's getting created, we can see that this is the SharePoint list, which contains a sample day-to-day items that we need to actually get started with. And we will try, as you can see, for instance, we have like three items falling on 326. And we will try to pick up all those items which fall on the same day using Power Automate. And we will try to create them as an adaptive card and send it to the end user into Microsoft Teams channel so that he can view that and start his day. Now let's head back to Power Automate and we'll initialize two variables so as to hold the data that we'll be using within Power Automate. We'll initialize a variable and we'll name it as worklog items of data type string, and we'll also add another variable, and this time it will be used to hold the number of items that the user has for that particular day. We will have it as integer and the default value will be 0. Next thing to do is we will be using the getItems action to pick up the items from SharePoint list, which really matches a condition that evaluates to the implementation date is equal to today, so that we will get all those items from the SharePoint list or worklog items. And in the advanced options, we will use filter query so that we can use to filter by implementation date. As we can see, we have the implementation date is the column which defines on what date the activity has to be performed. So we will set a filter that implementation date has to be equal to today. So to do that, we will add a filter query here. And in the expression, you can see that the format datetime is UTC now. We just have formatted it to YYYMMDD so that it actually is formatted to reflect the same date format as SharePoint. Now, this action will pick up all those items which has the implementation data as today, and we will be using those items to create the data that we'll have to show in the adaptive cards. Now, since there might be multiple items that is being returned, we will use an apply to each action to loop through the returned items, and we'll be using the values dynamic content from the previous data items action to loop through it, and we'll try to do few actions on those returned items to build the adaptive card body. First thing to do is we'll increment the variable to the count of items variable by 1 so that we get to understand like how many work items are there for that particular day, so that we will use that number within adaptive card to show it as a message to the user. Now, the next step that we'll be adding is a compose action, because we need to create a structure that we can plug into the adaptive card, and we will be using an element called the facts, which we will be plugging into the container called the fact set. Now, fact set is mainly used to display key value pairs. Now, we had seen the usage of fact sets in the previous video where we are discussing the basics. So the fact set schema will look like this, where we will have the facts defined. The type would be fact set, which is basically a container, and within that we will have the element facts, which can be described as key value pairs. You can see that each of the key value pair will be described using within the curly braces, and this fact one will actually get displayed as a key value pair in the adaptive card like this. So as to do that, if there are multiple facts, we'll have to combine the multiple facts in such a fashion by using a compose action. Now, same way, like if you have three items for to do in a particular day, we'll have to create them as in this format so that we will actually be able to display them in the adaptive card. Now, we will be using trying to create the adaptive card facts syntax so as to replicate this kind of a format using the compose action, because these two values are being returned as outputs from get items action. So we'll be looping through each items and we'll be fetching these values and creating the format in this particular way. So let's head back to Power Automate and we will create a compose action, and in the inputs, and we will add them as below. So you can see like the title and value is being replicated just like how we want to have it in the facts. And we are actually using the count of items, which is variable, which is we are incrementing in the previous step. We'll be using it to indicate the number of the items or to do items for that particular day. Followed by that, we will be copying the work item, which is the title for the activity, and followed by that we will also get the description, which is actually given in the description column, and we will create it using the compose action. And finally we need to append that to a string which we have declared previously. So in order to do that, we will add another append to variable action, and we will append the output to the workload items. So this way, whatever data that we are composing in each loop will get appended to the string variable, and it will actually create an string that looks like this, which we will be plugging it directly into the adaptive card. So the next step is we will add a post adaptive card to the chatter channel, and we will this time use the flowbot as post as option, and in the post in we will add channel with flowbot, and we'll add a recipient as well to test it out. And in the adaptive card, we have to add the JSON that we are going to display. So we'll be using the adaptive card designer to test out how the JSON will look like. So let's head out to the adaptive card designer first. So the designer do have a default adaptive card displayed here. So in the card payload editor, we'll just delete it and add our own adaptive card JSON, and we will see how it looks like in the preview mode. So we do have a few issues here, so we'll just remove the, because these are dynamic values which is being fetched from Power Automate, which is causing the error. So I'll just remove it, and we will see how the adaptive card now looks like. And you can see the image is coming up, then you have a title, then the work log items for the day as a subheading, and a message like we have identified so and so items, which is again the variable count of items is something that we're using in Power Automate, which doesn't get reflected in the designer. And the log items is as follows. Now, if you want to test the log items using the structure, we'll just copy over the static structure which we have created to the facts to see how it looks like, and we'll see if it is going to get reflected. So we'll just remove this. And you can see now we have the key value pair coming in. So this is how it would actually ideally look like in Microsoft Teams as well. And we will try to actually copy over the same JSON which we have created to Power Automate. But before that, we'll just try to explain like a bit of the structure. So we can see like within the body, we are actually initially having the first element as the image, and I'm actually picking a URL of the image from Azure Blob Storage, which I have used to store the image. So because ideally, if you want to display an image, you can either pick it from SharePoint or Azure Blob Storage, And you need to be very careful of using the URL because not all public facing URLs are accepted within the adaptive card image because it will actually show a sad smiley if it is not able to render. So I have used Azure Blob Storage, which is a reliable way of storing image and using it in adaptive card. Followed by that, we have the good morning message and the subtitle. So we have a rich text block which shows the good morning message as well as a bit of styling is used there, and we have horizontally aligned it to sender. Followed by that, we have a subtitle which gives us the subtitle of the workload items for the day. Followed by that, we are having a text which tells us the number of items or the backlog items which we have for that particular day. And finally, we have the fact set, which is a container for showing the key value pairs, which will be containing the data that we are actually created using the compose action by looping through the get items action, which we are retrieving from SharePoint list item. Now we will copy over this JSON to our Power Automate, and inside that application card, we'll just paste it, and we can see that the count of items and the workload items are being picked from the previously defined variables. And, and I'll just update the version to 1.4 because anything beyond 1.4 doesn't work with Microsoft Teams right now. So that pretty much completes the Power Automate development. We'll just quickly go ahead and save it. Now the Power Automate has been saved. Now, since this is a schedule flow for testing, we will have to manually trigger it. And let's see how the flow is being run. It has picked the items and it is looping, and you can see like there are 3 items which is matching for the current day. And we can see how the compose looks like. In the first item, we have the title and the description for the task, and the second item is road asphalting. Third item is again underground cabling. So even we have the incremental number coming in through the variable that we are actually incrementing in the previous step. And even the adaptive card posting has happened successfully. We can see that there is a status code of 201 here. And ideally now if we look if we head back to the Teams, we should be seeing the adaptive card posted to our channel. Let's see, we'll go to the chat and we can see like it has picked up the image from Azure Blob Storage, given us the good morning message, then the subtitle, followed by the message that we have 3 work log items. And the 3 is actually being picked from the variable. Followed by that, we have the fact set, which shows the key value pair of the title of the work along with the description of the job. This way, we are getting a very nice, good morning message as well as the to-do items for one particular day using adaptive cards, which we have created using the adaptive card designer, and we are actually sending that adaptive card using Power Automate to Microsoft Teams on a day-to-day basis. So this is one of the implementations of adaptive cards to display very good-looking UI UX card to the user on a day-to-day basis. We will see how we can leverage adaptive cards by expanding and integrating it with more of the business day-to-day requirements in some of our upcoming videos. So thanks all for watching and see you soon in another video.